A woman named Miriam tells a psychologist that her life has changed a lot since she had 2 children. Miriam dedicates herself entirely to the family and has no time for personal interests. She has a 5-year-old daughter named Mila and an 11-month-old son named Adam. Miriam's husband, Paul, works a lot to provide for the family. One day Miriam mentioned that she really wants to go back to work. However, Paul is against it, believing that the children are better off with their mother than a nanny. Miriam, barely containing her hysterics, said that she can't take it anymore. She's willing to give her entire salary to a nanny just to avoid being at home all the time. Eventually Paul gives in. Soon the first candidate came to the couple for an interview. She is a migrant who plans to combine her nanny duties with her work as a cleaner. In addition, the woman does not understand French well. Of course, the spouses were categorically not satisfied with this option. However, the next candidate, a student of the psychology faculty, was no better. The third candidate looked suitable for the role of a nanny, but for this woman it is important to have a clear schedule, which the spouses cannot provide her. The whole day passed in the process of selecting potential nannies. Miriam and Paul realized that it was much more challenging than they had thought. They were left with only 2 candidates for today. A doorbell rang. Pleasant woman named Louise was about to talk about her work experience when suddenly she heard Adam's crying. Miriam was surprised by such sensitive hearing. Louise told them that she had worked as a nanny for many years. She has a grown 25-year-old daughter, and her husband passed away a long time ago. Currently, Louise is completely free and can work on any schedule. To confirm her professional skills, Louise gave Miriam a list of contacts of her previous employers. The spouses immediately understood that they had found the perfect nanny. Louise wakes up at 5 in the morning, gets herself ready and goes to work. Before leaving, Miriam wants to make sure everything is in order. Miriam's kitchen is a mess because she has no time to do anything. Louise assured Miriam that she can be at ease about her children. When Miriam left, Louise started her duties, which came remarkably easy to her. After work, Miriam hurried home and was surprised to see that the rooms were perfectly tidy. This continues day after day. Now Miriam can always leave for work with peace of mind. Louise is an excellent nanny who handles her responsibilities perfectly. Now Miriam and Paul have time for each other. Miriam is a lawyer and sometimes takes work home while Louise looks after the children. She treats Mila and Adam as her own daughter and son. At the playground, Louise keeps a close eye on Adam. Other nannies are wary of her because she comes across as a very impulsive woman. In the evening when Miriam stopped by the local store after work, the shopkeeper told her that she has a great nanny. She truly loves her job and takes her responsibilities seriously. Since Miriam and Paul now have free time, they attended a party at a friend's house. It had been a long time since the couple had had fun and lived for themselves. Miriam and Paul returned late. Louise was asleep on the couch, and Paul considerately covered her with a blanket. One day Miriam offered Louise some wine, sharing that she dreams of moving to a larger apartment so the children could have their own rooms. Upon learning that Louise gave expired yogurts to Mila and Adam, Miriam was shocked. According to Louise, there was nothing wrong with that since such products could be consumed for a few more weeks. Miriam prohibited her from doing this from now on. Louise lives alone in her apartment and sleeps very little. Miriam didn't expect the nanny to show up so early at all. Every day Louise comes to them earlier and earlier. While Miriam is at work, Louise replaces the children's mother. However, sometimes her behavior becomes very strange. One day Louise met Sylvie, Paul's mother, who paid them a visit. Louise couldn't hide her jealousy when Sylvie played with the granddaughter. Furthermore, Sylvie made quite a mess. In the evening, Louise tidied up the house. Sylvie finally left. Mila's birthday came. Miriam didn't expect Louise to decorate the house, buy a dress for Mila and prepare a party. Miriam was supposed to do this, but she's too busy with work. Many of Mila's classmates came to the house, which Miriam wasn't pleased about. She loves quietness, and the guests made a lot of noise. Louise enjoyed spending time with them. This went on for many hours. Miriam's dissatisfaction grew. On the other hand, Louise did it for her daughter. Of course Mila was happy. Louise was preparing dinner at the time, but Miriam said she had already ordered food, so Louise could be free. Louise didn't hide her displeasure. The next day at the playground, Louise forbade Mila from taking sweets from a friend. Louise doesn't want anyone except her to spend time with Mila and Adam. Often her behavior borders on something abnormal. Meanwhile, Miriam met with the daycare teacher, who mentioned that Mila's behavior had deteriorated significantly lately. Miriam replied that she was sorry. Her work takes up too much of her time, so she pays little attention to the children. At home, the spouses invited Louise to dinner to celebrate something. Paul shared that he was releasing an album by a famous singer. Their friends also came to the party. Louise clearly felt uncomfortable in their company. When all the guests were seated at the table, Louise brought a dish she had prepared from the kitchen. Everyone was delighted. Suddenly Paul asked the nanny if she wanted to go on vacation with them to take care of the children. Of course Louise gladly agreed. Soon the spouses, their children and Louise set off for the long-awaited vacation. Louise is increasingly becoming a part of their family. It seemed like the perfect vacation. Everyone enjoyed the sea and picturesque views. However, on the beach when Mila called the nanny to go swimming, Louise behaved rudely. Naturally the spouses were puzzled. Louise admitted that she couldn't swim. Then Paul offered to teach her that. However, Louise couldn't overcome her fear of water. In the evening, Louise played with Mila again as if nothing had happened. Later, a hotel employee said that she would take care of the kids today. An awkward situation arose, and the spouses had to invite the nanny to a restaurant with them. On the way, they exchanged messages, agreeing in advance what they would talk to Louise about. Their plans were ruined. The company came back late. The spouses were going to be alone, ignoring the fact that Louise was watching them. At night, Louise couldn't fall asleep for a long time, listening to the sounds of passion coming from the hotel. After the vacation, the company returned home. Louise shared with another nanny on the playground that Miriam might have another child soon. Louise is happy that she'll have someone to care for. She intends to do whatever it takes to bring this moment closer. Later, Louise asked Mila if she would like to have a little brother or sister. However, Mila wasn't enthusiastic about it. When Miriam returned from work, Louise said she wanted to take the children to a restaurant. Louise secretly hopes that this will bring her closer to the goal. However, instead of a restaurant, Louise took Mila and Adam to a questionable cafe. Louise constantly told Mila how great it would be if their family had an addition. Louise also asks Mila to drop hints about it to her parents. Many hours passed. The brother and sister were already tired, but Louise was in no hurry to take them home. They stayed in the cafe for a very long time, hardly ordering anything. At home, Paul was listening to music while his wife went to sleep. When Louise found out about it, she was very upset. Her hopes were shattered. The next week, Louise took the kids on a picnic. When she dozed off, Mila disappeared somewhere. Louise panicked, searching for her everywhere and asking passers-by if they had seen a girl with braids. Finally, Louise found Mila in the park and told her that next time no one would find her. At home, Louise lied to Miriam that everything went well. There was nothing unusual in Mila's behavior either. One day Miriam told Louise that she had seen a bite on Adam. According to Louise, Mila did it. Miriam believed her, not suspecting that Louise was the one who actually did it. Secretly from Miriam, Louise uses her cosmetics and asks Mila not to tell her mother about it. Coming home from work, Paul was outraged that Louise had given his daughter provocative makeup. But Louise seemed to see no problem in it. In the evening Sylvie arrived, planning to take the grandchildren to her place for a week-long visit. Of course this turn of events didn't sit well with Louise. Later, Miriam told Louise not to come for a week. During this time, Louise spent it alone in her apartment, sinking into depression. She hardly got up from the couch. Life for Louise had completely lost its meaning. Meanwhile, the couple was on their way to see Sylvie and the children. Miriam told her husband that Louise was behaving strangely. It seemed as if she considered Mila and Adam her own children. The spouses had no idea that Louise, who had keys, had already entered their home. Sylvie told Miriam that Mila was constantly talking about a little brother or sister. Miriam was very surprised. She and her husband certainly weren't planning that. The family spent the entire day outdoors, and during dinner, Sylvie said that she didn't trust Louise. There was clearly something off about that woman. The couple has no idea that all this time the nanny was in their home. At night, Paul woke up from a nightmare. Finally, he confessed to his wife that he didn't like Louise. Every time they ask her to leave, she plays the victim. Paul wants to fire Louise. He believes it's wrong that the children spend more time with her than with them. However, Miriam is not ready for that yet, because she is busy at work. Louise made a terrible mess of the apartment. She misses Mila and Adam a lot. The spouses returned earlier than planned, but by that time, the house was already clean. Louise had left them a bouquet of flowers with a welcome note. Miriam realized that the nanny had done the cleaning while they were away. Louise's behavior becomes increasingly strange. When she was playing store with Mila, she used her potty. Mila said she didn't want to play anymore. Louise responded that it was outrageous and that she would never come back to the shop. In the evening, Mila told the parents about it, but they of course didn't believe her. It sounded too absurd to be true. At night, Miriam woke up from a nightmare. When she saw Louise in the kitchen, she didn't know how to react. It turns out that Louise had stayed the night. The next day at the playground, Adam took his first steps. On the same day, the spouses had a serious talk with the nanny. They received a letter about Louise, who as it turned out had significant debts and wasn't paying taxes. Paul was very displeased. Louise's tears irritated him even more, so he left. Miriam on the other hand felt pity and promised to help Louise as a lawyer. Louise revealed in tears that she was not formally married to her husband, and after his passing, she lost custody of her daughter, who ended up being raised by her grandparents. Miriam let Louise go early. The woman was completely shattered and returned home in a distraught state of mind. In Louise's apartment, there were many unopened letters from the treasury. Throughout the evening, Louise sorted through children's toys when suddenly she noticed an octopus that had crawled into her home through the sewer. While trying to catch the creature, Louise wrecked her apartment and then destroyed the letters. The spouses argued about how to proceed. Paul believed Miriam treated Louise as a friend rather than a hired employee, and that wouldn't lead to anything good. But Miriam wanted to give Louise another chance. They never reached a common decision. Paul had to go to work, and Miriam had to stay with the children. Louise constantly lay on the couch, immersed in deep depression. However, she soon returned to the spouse's home and saw a letter stating that Adam had been given a place in a municipal daycare. This horrified Louise. Now the spouses no longer needed her services. During the day, Louise slept on a bench in the park while the children played by themselves. In the evening, Louise told Mila a tale about a princess of the swamp who lived in a castle made of mud. One day the princess encountered a traveler in the forest who thought she was very unhappy. But that was a lie. In reality, the princess loved her swamp with all her heart. Returning from work, Miriam didn't dare tell Louise that she had been fired. When the nanny left, Miriam found a nibbled chicken in the kitchen. Miriam immediately threw the chicken in the trash bin and then called her husband, tearfully recounting what happened. Miriam was sure the nanny is taking revenge on her. The spouses decided to fire Louise by the end of the week. The next day, Louise paid no attention to Adam and Mila, appearing very despondent. At some point the doorbell rang. It was another nanny who suggested to Louise that they go to the playground together. But Louise didn't utter a word. She decided that if Adam and Mila weren't with her, they wouldn't be with anyone. Miriam, who was in a good mood, stopped by a bakery for pastries and headed home. Meanwhile, Louise was preparing to put her sinister plan into action. When Miriam entered the apartment, she screamed. Returning home and seeing the police, Paul immediately realized that something terrible had happened.